Hey everyone, this is going to be the first of a few devlogs about this game that's been popping up in the background of my recent videos. So my game, which I'm calling Covenant of Roses, is a turn-based deck-building roguelike that adapts many of the mechanics found in popular games of the genre like Slay the Spire and Monster Train onto a two-dimensional game board. It'll be full of interesting strategic decisions and synergies that allow for many approaches to the procedurally generated levels. So the objective is to fight through each level, advancing once all of the enemies in the level are destroyed, and getting new cards and items through various level types. There's going to be 4 different worlds to fight through and a boss at the end of each one. So the way I think I'm going to do these videos is talk about an interesting idea or technique I've learned about in the last month, and this video is going to focus on how I make enemies. I'm going to go over the design and art behind this little guy, which I'm calling Mother. Mother is an enemy type which you'll want to prioritize, not because she'll have super damaging attacks, but because she spawns other enemies, potentially even copies of herself. I try to design the behaviors of an enemy first, and then I try to figure out what they'll look like. So the first thing I do is open up a game reference when I start animating, just so I know what my enemies will look like in the context of my game. It's a single map tile, and I start by sketching out large forms and separate them by color. Since this is just a sketch, the final color doesn't really have to be represented here. I might try a few different poses and body structures, and I'm not afraid to completely start over like this if I feel like it's going nowhere. Alright, so here's some more of the basics. Just sketching out a body shape, adding basic features, and trying out the shading. I don't really have a great ray tracing engine in my head, so your mileage may vary with this. Some of the backstory I've developed involves mutations, so I have to add something to make this look a bit different than a normal chicken, hence a third eye. So it turns out that simple shading is best, so I'm just going to make a single relatively normal shadow on a spherical object. Generally though, since shading depends on the shape of an object at a point in time, it's generally a good idea to shade after animating, since animating is mostly about manipulating those shapes. So a quick run through of some of these useful pixel art animation tricks that I'm using. Make use of squash and stretch to add character. Don't move everything as a solid block. Make different parts move at slightly different timings, like things following through. Layers are very useful to do this, since you can hide and separate layers. Smear out high contrast elements like the comb to create motion blur. And take a wide focused approach, looking at how the shapes move, then adding details afterwards. The one-to-one view here is great. Those little details also help to add a lot of character, like the tail feathers puffing up. Now, before I show off the final result, I want to add that the vast majority of people that watch my videos aren't subscribed. If you like what I'm doing, I'd really appreciate it if you took a second to drop a sub. It helps me out a lot. Thanks. Okay, so now that I have an idle animation done, I can make it do something. So I know I've used these diagram makers before, but there are some pretty cool text-based ones that I want to try out to try to make some more maintainable documentation that I can just basically edit in Notepad. Mermaid is a popular one that has a really simple syntax for making states and transitions. So the idea is that you just write the name of a state, which is just a behavior that gets looped over and over, and a description of what happens and what that behavior is inside the state bubble. Then you can write conditions for the transition on the lines, as well as any side effects that could happen during a transition. It's pretty simple to do, and again, if you want to just make a quick edit, it's super easy. You don't have to open up a complex SVG editor, and you can just change the text. So writing out the code for this is surprisingly easy, just requiring a few simple switch statements. I'll probably make a video about this someday if there's enough demand, but this video is mainly going to focus on the design. So in Unity, which I'm using to build this game, I just changed the name of the sprite to reflect the state of the creature, and we can watch it transition through each of the states as time goes by. One last thing to add is a counter strategy against this enemy. It should be high priority, since it'll eventually overwhelm you if you don't do anything against it, and it can really become exponentially more problematic. 2 counters I've thought of are, since it resides close to the board edge, a good strategy would be to use this synergy to knock it off the board, or into the nest and destroy both with the shield bash and dislocation or something similar to it. It also tends to create a lot of clusters of enemies, which lends itself to AoE or piercing attacks in order to get rid of multiple at once. I'm sure there's lots of other strategies I haven't thought of, but that's going to require some more testing, and it'd be great if people could figure that out while they're playing. So that's the general process of creating enemies. If you're interested in following Covenant of Roses, join my Discord, the link is in the description, and subscribe to my channel to get updated when I post a new video. I do this monthly to motivate myself and share what I've learned. If you have comments, suggestions, or game ideas, I'd love to talk about it. Leave that in the comments or join me on the Discord. I'd love to hear from you. Alright, see you next time.